afternoon and welcome to the Midday News here on CNC3 and the TBC Radio Network. I am Bhavita Gopalchan. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, Caricom leaders are preparing for the closing ceremony of the 50th regular heads of government meeting in St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, several leaders have already departed. Attention is now on decisions taken by the bloc and the political tensions that surfaced on the sidelines. Doris Polo and Timothy Shasto reports.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's the final day of the Caricom 50th Heads of Government meeting in Bastille, St. Kitts. Now, most of the leaders have already left. However, there remains members of the Bureau, that's the Caricom Chair, Prime Minister of St. Kitts, Dr. Terence Drew, as well as the outgoing Chair, Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness, and incoming Chair, St. Lucia's Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, as well as the Caricom Secretary General, or General Secretary rather. But I have to say, we are waiting with bated breath. The press conference, the final one for the closing ceremony, was expected to begin around 11 a.m. and it may actually begin and take place simultaneously with this newscast. We're eager to find out where Caricom goes from here, especially after the scathing critique of the bloc by our Prime Minister Kamla Bissessa. Now, what happens next? Was there a resolution on Haiti? Was there one on Cuba? Have interpersonal challenges been rectified? We'll soon find out. Now, last evening, we had an opportunity to witness a live interview between Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley and State TV for her country, and she responded to our Prime Minister's comments about the so-called kidnapping of firearms dealer Brent Thomas. According to our Prime Minister, that incident may or may not have been aided by a CARICOM country. And Prime Minister Mottley responded.
To describe it as kidnapping or to suggest that any member of cabinet or any member of the permanent secretary class or government of Barbados is involved in kidnapping is a scurrilous lie and defamatory in the extreme.
Now, earlier today, we also had an opportunity to speak with the Premier of Nevis. He holds a title similar to the one of Tobago House of Assembly Chief Secretary Fali Augustine, and they spoke about issues surrounding autonomy. And interestingly enough, he praised Prime Minister Prasad Bissessa for inviting Mr. Augustine to the Caricom meeting. According to him, he wasn't even invited, and he is the Premier of Nevis. This is what he had to say.
Well, let me put it in context for you. The 50th anniversary is being celebrated in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm the Premier of Nevis, and I wasn't invited. So I wasn't a part of any delegation. I merely attended the opening ceremony like everybody else, and that was it. And I thought that the mere fact that your Prime Minister actually mentioned it in the opening ceremony, in her speech, is demonstrative of the fact that clearly she saw it as a paradigm shift.
We'll continue to bring you coverage of the latest developments arising out of this CARICOM summit, a historical moment for the region. For now, it's Doris Polo, CNC3 News, Bastille, St. Kitts.
Thank you so much for the latest coming out of St. Kitts, Doris. We look forward to your updates. Well, Prime Minister Kamla Bissessa certainly sees the spotlight at CARICOM's 50th meeting, delivering an address that is still being deconstructed in the regional bloc. She took the opportunity, her very first meeting with Caribbean leaders, to let them know Trinidad and Tobago is going its own way. Regional political analyst Peter Wickham joins us via Zoom to unpack all that has been said so far, or even not said over the past 3 days in St. Kitts and Nevis. Mr. Wickham, the Prime Minister said TNT is vested but won't be bound. In the world of diplomacy, can you actually have it both ways, or is this the beginning of the end of TNT's partnership with CARICOM? And was her speech appropriate?
Yeah, there's a lot that you asked there. I don't think her speech was appropriate, and I think that the reality of the situation is I don't think that much is going to change in terms of CARICOM. I think Trinidad and Tobago understands that the relationship that they have with CARICOM now is one that's beneficial. The Prime Minister has not fundamentally said anything will change or that she will do anything differently. And frankly, we will continue to hear these kinds of noises from Port of Spain, from her in particular. But fundamentals, I don't think will shift because the relationship fundamentally is in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago. And I think that at a level she has to acknowledge that.
Well, the Nevis Premier seems to think that Prasad Bissessa's speech held some merit.
I think the Nevis Premier has some domestic political issues that we ought to separate from these matters. The relationship between Trinidad and Tobago from St. Kitts and Nevis has always been contentious in various ways, and I don't know that we can drag that onto the floor of Caricom. I noticed that Tobago was present with her in the Caricom meeting. Interestingly enough, Tobago is not present with her in the National Security Council. It's a similar kind of relationship with Nevis and St. Kitts. I wouldn't drag that into this issue, frankly, because I don't think that it is related in any way to CARICOM's mission.
Now, one local political analyst believes diplomacy is now fading, and the Prime Minister's invitation to Shield of the Americas shows that she's on the right trajectory, now being recognized by global leaders. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't disagree with him. I don't agree with him, and frankly, I haven't agreed with him recently, and I've heard him making similar comments before. Look, the rules of diplomacy require a certain level of communication. My sense is that there was a lot in the Prime Minister's comments that breached those rules of engagement. I mean, she dragged issues which were national security matters, like the Brett Thomas matter, into this in a way that was entirely inappropriate. And then it was a sense where you are standing as a member of a family, you're standing outside the house and you're throwing rocks in. First meeting that you've attended ever, you're attending largely because Marco Rubio is there. You go to the opening ceremony, you make remarks, and when the family sits down to have a conversation the next day, you disappear back to Port of Spain. I find it a bit rich, quite frankly, and then to suggest in that you have gained the attention of people. I'm anxious to see from the goodly doctor what evidence he has of persons other than President Trump taking and paying attention to Prime Minister Bessad's responses and her communication is suggesting that she's attracting attention. I think that what it is attracting a lot of concern from various sources that these traditional rules of diplomacy are not being observed. If you have issues with CARICOM, let's work together as a family to resolve them. I don't think that what happened is essentially you come to a meeting, you deliver this incendiary device, and then you leave. And then when we try to sit down to work out these issues, frankly, you're not around to help to resolve them. I don't know that is helpful to diplomacy, and I don't know that it is attracting the admiration or attention of anybody across the world, quite frankly, other than Donald Trump, who, of course, has his own interest in these matters.
Mr. Wickham, we are running out of time, and I really do want to I really do want to touch on the Brent Thomas matter. But first, Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar left St. Kitts shortly after her meeting with the U.S.'s Marco Rubio. My question is, do you believe that they were both trying to perhaps prove a point or land a point with their brief appearances?
Of course, yeah, she went. He has an interest and he wants to advance it, and she also has an interest in helping him advance her interests. And I get that clearly. I think that they both came to do what they had to do, and they left. I mean, she's demonstrated by that action where her interest lies. She wants to help the United States advance their cause within CARICOM. That was her interest in going to the meeting. Once that was accomplished, back to Port of Spain to get on with other matters. Entirely unsurprising. As far as the Brent Thomas matter is concerned, very, very quickly, I'd say that it's a national security matter. Barbados seemed to have been of the opinion that it was advancing the national security cause of Trinidad and Tobago by pursuing an arrest warrant which had been issued by the authorities in Trinidad and Tobago. I think that we all agree that what happened was highly inappropriate, but it was clear that there was no involvement at the higher level, political level in Barbados, because we in Barbados maintain a principle whereby the Commission of Police does not discuss these matters with the Attorney General or Prime Minister, who frankly heard about it when we all did in Barbados and when you did in Trinidad and Tobago. So there was no political involvement. And again, I found it unfortunate that the matter was dragged onto the floor of CARICOM, because it really is not about us doing anything other than trying to advance your own security interests in Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, a lot to impact, but as you rightly said, rearing its head again is a Brent Thomas issue. Now, TNT's Prime Minister is saying he was kidnapped, but Barbados' Prime Minister is saying it's a lie. What is the best way to move on from this matter, keeping in mind that the court labeled this incident as kidnapping?
Yeah. No, I mean, the court's view on it is something that we all respect, and Barbados paid a tidy sum of money in that regard. But the suggestion that you're associating a political actor with the kidnapping, I think, is really where the concerns are. But look, ultimately, mincing words. My sense is that Caricom will come out of this. We have been through other periods where we have grown stronger. Prime Minister Prasad Bisessa was chairman of Caricom before. She will be chairman of Caricom again shortly. I'm anxious to hear what she will do to advance causes within that grouping when she becomes chairman. And in the meantime, I think that the best thing that we need to do is to stop giving oxygen to these comments and statements which are not backed by anything fundamental. And let's look at the broader picture in terms of the Caribbean community, the Caricom family moving ahead. This too will pass, is what I would say. And I wouldn't lose too much sleep over these comments because I also appreciate that they're not backed by anything else.
I think that's a good way to end the interview there. Caricom will recover from all that's happening. All right, thank you, Mr. Wickham, for joining us here on the CNC3 Midday News. Well, to this now. 3 men were shot and killed early this morning in Laventille. They are Keon Alexander, Dwayne Alexander, and Jesse Nelson, all of McShine lands. According to police, around 1 a.m., the 3 men were outside a neighbor's home when they were attacked. When police arrived, the men were already dead. Now, we will bring you more on these latest murders in a subsequent newscast. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with sport news.
Things don't always go as expected. Be ready with Trinry for auto, home, business and group life. Call us at 800 Trin or visit trinry.com today. Huge insurance premium. Pay your premiums bit by bit with FlexiPay from Trinry. For more manageable auto, home and commercial insurance payments, call us at 800 Trin or visit trinry.com today. Trinry, premier insurance coverage for less.
Looking for a completely natural way to supplement your family's diet? Only BioStrath gives your body more than 60 of the essential nutrients it needs every day in a product that's 100% natural, so it's more easily absorbed. For stronger immunity, enhanced focus, increased energy and stamina, and faster recovery. BioStrath, get what you need naturally.
West Indies lost their first match of the 2026 ICC T20 World Cup by 9 wickets to South Africa in the Super 8. The Caribbean team is now faced with a must-win match on Sunday against co-host India. Looking ahead, hopes that the tournament is now at its business end, where he expects his team to meet the tough moments head-on.
This is how it's supposed to be, because when you come into crunch time of a tournament, every opposition or every game you play now is supposed to be a challenge in some way. And this is the reason why it's the Super 8s, and then if you get to the semis and the finals, is the reason why, because it's the better teams or the best teams in the latter half of the stages of the tournament.
It's back to a break. We'll be right back.
SEA exams can feel overwhelming. So much pressure, so much to remember. But one child stays calm and focused with the nutritional support of Astamin. Packed with essential amino acids and vitamins, Astamin helps improve memory, focus, and concentration. While others struggle, your child can rise with confidence.
Thank you, Astamin.
Choose Astamin. Power up for SEA victory. Available at pharmacies nationwide.
PRWC, protect your loved ones with a Western Global Security Combo, only $3,000. PS5 console game, $5,400. Unwind with an 85-inch Samsung TV, $9,999. HP 14-inch laptop for $1,900. Amazon 8-inch Fire tablet, $760. HP print scan copy printer, $625. We have speakers, mouse, printers, and lots more. 3 months layaway also available.
Shambak Ramprasad has the weather forecast.
We had a few showers this morning, some moderate over Tobago and eastern areas of Trinidad, and an isolated heavy shower near Toco. The yellow level hazardous seas alert remains in effect for all north-facing coastlines of Trinidad and Tobago until 9 a.m. tomorrow. The Saharan dust is still present over the area, giving us moderate air quality, but thankfully it should begin to dissipate from tomorrow. For the remainder of the day, we can expect the sunny, hazy and breezy conditions to continue, with a few brisk showers, and similar conditions are expected over the weekend.
Well, that's the end of the Midday News. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.